Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And Justin, I'm going to need a little reminder here. What are we listening to right now? What are we listening to right now?
We're listening to the lacrosse team outside.
The lacrosse team outside. It is time for the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. So buckle up. We're in for a wild ride. We have a lot going on right now. The draft is just in 2 days. Actually, when you guys receive this podcast, when it's published, it's the day before the draft. So that's coming up. That's going to be very exciting. We still have a lot to go over for that. We have a trade between the Ravens and the Chiefs that we need to go over. That's a big trade for the AFC. But first, we have a special guest. We have our personal friend, Cameron Alden. Cameron, I understand you are a senior. You go to school with us at Dean College. You're going to graduate in a couple weeks. How does that feel?
It was crazy, to be honest. It was like yesterday I just walked on campus for the first time.
So you feel like you were just here a couple weeks ago, like you just got here.
Yeah, it does. Time flies, man.
So Cameron, do you want to tell the people a little bit about yourself?
I mean, I think you did a pretty good job. I'm a senior. I know you guys, sadly. Big Baker Mayfield guy.
So
I'm sure we'll
absolutely.
get into that.
There's what I wanted to hear. This guy is one of the biggest Baker Mayfield fans you will ever meet in your life. You know, I gotta say, I'm not huge on Baker, but like, if you are going to represent Baker Mayfield, there's nobody who does it better than Cameron Alden right here. Die-hard Baker Mayfield fan. I'm sure you like the Browns if you like Baker Mayfield, right? Correct?
I mean, now I do. No one liked the Browns last 20 years. Let's not kid yourself.
I mean, no, it's not like nobody liked them. It's just they were terrible.
They blow.
All right, so we're gonna get right into it. So to go more in depth of this trade between the Ravens and the Chiefs. So the Chiefs have needed some offensive line help for the past over the entire offseason. They lost after the Super Bowl. They cut both their tackles and they lost their center as well. They wound up replacing their center with a guy who just came out of retirement to come play for them. They still don't have a right tackle, but they got their left tackle now in Orlando Brown. So they made a trade a couple of days ago with the Baltimore Ravens. They gave up their 2021 first-round pick, a third-rounder, fourth-rounder, and another late-round fifth-round pick in exchange. So the Chiefs receive they receive Orlando Brown, and they get a 2021 second-round pick and an additional late-round pick. Now, the Chiefs get exactly what they need. They needed a lot of help at the tackle position. So now, for both of these sides, I'll start with you, Justin, the Ravens fan. How do you see this trade for working out for both, for each side?
Well, as far as the Ravens side is concerned, we knew this day was coming. It had to happen eventually before the draft came up because Orlando Brown Jr. made it very clear that all he wants to do is play left tackle for personal reasons. And since we signed Ron Stanley to that big contract, he realized that wasn't going to happen. So he asked for a trade. So it was only a matter of time before it happened. And it kind of put us into a bind of like, we can't get like the proper value for him. So we had to like scavenge and find somebody that was willing to take him, plus give us adequate cap or draft value for him. And unfortunately, we landed on the Chiefs, but I think we got some pretty good, decent picks and cap for him. We got a first-round pick this year and a couple of other picks that we can use in the draft. I believe we'll use one of those picks to get a pass rusher because we always do that. But I think hopefully we use our first-round pick or one of our two first-round picks on a wide receiver. I think the Chiefs get better because they finally have they got I think they got better on the O-line this year, this season. I think all in all, they started off horrendous after the 2020 season and then somehow got better. So I think this addition for Orlando Brown helps both the Chiefs and the Ravens in different ways.
Absolutely. I think this helps both teams. They did have to give up a 2021 second round pick. So they gave up their second rounder as well as Orlando Brown. But they do get a first round pick out of it and a third rounder. So it seems pretty even. But Cameron, what do you think about it?
I think we're really seeing the beginning of the end for the Chiefs. I think Mahomes will always keep them in contention. But I think they looked fatigued. They looked almost boring in the Super Bowl. They didn't have anything new. And it seems like the game plan has kind of been found out on the Chiefs. Their O-line was never good last year, and that got exposed in the Super Bowl. It's a very bold move to replace the whole entire thing. And we'll see how long it takes Mahomes to really mesh with them. As for the Ravens, I don't see what the O-line matters. I mean, Lamar Jackson's not in the pocket anyways. I mean, the left tackle is pretty vital to that. Considering that's his blind side, but Thorny's good enough to replace him. So I think the trade was made to be bigger than it was.
Okay, so I thought coming into this offseason, I completely agree. I would have completely agreed. I think this is the beginning of the end for those championship contending Chiefs teams where Mahomes is basically just a game glitch in Madden, and he's just slinging it all over the field, and he just can't seem to do wrong. And I think I thought Super Bowl 59 was going to. I thought Super Bowl 59 was going to I thought that was a good indicator of what maybe a little bit of foreshadowing of what's going to come, but. After this trade, honestly, they might be Super Bowl contenders again. They may not win it because I think the issue is there's just some sort of a curse or some sort of mental factor that plays into losing a Super Bowl because teams who lose a Super Bowl just don't go back and win it again. I think it's happened about 2 or 3 times in Super Bowl history. And teams have only gone back about 7, 8 times. So it's extremely rare. But I think this move makes them Super Bowl contenders again. And if they don't win it next year, they could very well be in the mix again the year after that. See, this is what it's going to come down to in the next decade or so with Patrick Mahomes' contract and all the contracts of all these other players is that they're going to have to it's going to come down to how they manage their money. It'll come down to how they draft and if they're able to pull moves like this to sort of remain in contention, kind of stay in the mix. That's the way the Patriots did it. That's how they were able to stay in contention for a very long time. They were smart. And if the Chiefs are going to remain sort of a dynasty, if you will, that's exactly how the Chiefs are going to have to do it. This is the type of move that you make for sustained success.
I don't think it puts them back in the Super Bowl. I mean, they're obviously going to be Super Bowl contenders when they have Mahomes, but their D-line is their biggest problem because everyone knows the way you beat Mahomes is you run the ball, keep them off the field, and they can't stop the run. Down the stretch, they got a little better, but then they seemed to collapse again in the playoffs where they were in these wild games that just couldn't stop the run.
Are you forgetting they have Chris Jones?
You mean the dude that goes off sides every time there's a big play coming up?
Oh, my God.
I think you're thinking of Justin Houston, aren't you?
Mm-mm. Wasn't it Chris Jones who did against New England, and he also did in the Super Bowl?
I'm thinking of the other guy. Who is it? Who jumped off sides during the AFC Championship? D Ford. I think you're thinking of him. He's been gone. He's been on the 49ers. Chris Jones is the guy. He's a run stuffer.
I'm pretty sure Chris Jones went off sides on a big third down in the Super Bowl.
There's no such thing as a big play in that Super Bowl. That Super Bowl was a blowout from the start, to be honest. It really was no competition, but I'll take your word for it. I mean, let's be honest. That Super Bowl was not competitive.
It was competitive in the beginning.
Maybe a little bit, but just think about it. They didn't score a touchdown. It was all field goals, and Patrick Mahomes was running for his life for the entire time.
But if you look at the first quarter, it didn't feel like that. It felt like they were moving the ball down the field, and they just got stopped and were settling for field goals. And then all of a sudden, the second half came back. They made no adjustments, and that's the way it was.
It was like that the whole time. Yeah, we will. We're gonna go. We're gonna do that in just a minute. I guess we can do that now if you really want it. But
I was just reading a whole bunch of stuff on it, and I was like, all right, well.
All right, we can get to some of your thoughts. But first, the 49ers, according to Ian Rappaport and several other sources, it turns out they have narrowed their quarterback room to Mac Jones and Trey Lance. So no Justin Fields to be seen here. No Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson, obviously, because they're most likely going 1 and 2. However, there's no Justin Fields to be seen here, but the big choice is between Mac Jones and Trey Lance. Now, ever since they've made this trade, there's been a long debate. Justin, you and I have been going back and forth, debating and kind of speculating on who they're going to draft. It's been a very long few weeks since this trade has happened, and it still baffles me how we really just don't know who they're going to take. It baffles me that Mac Jones is an option. Really, I get it. There's been some players who have succeeded under Mac Jones's play style, but you have to be extremely intelligent to be able to do it. To kind of just sit that back there in the pocket, not quite mobile, not exactly Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, but you have to be able to just sit back there and just read defenses, be able to pick teams apart. So I'm going to ask one last time before draft day when the truth comes out and when Roger Goodell calls the name of the player the 49ers are drafting. But who are the 49ers taking with the third pick in the 2021 NFL draft?
That is the question of the day. For some reason, I believe it's going to be Mac Jones at the end of the day because I think he fits what they look in a quarterback. And all he has to do is just fill in the system and make throws that Jimmy G, for some reason or not, seemingly can't make, and then run the offense the way they want it to run. So as long as he can do that, he can be the franchise quarterback of the 49ers. But I will say that they need to stop looking for that mold of quarterback because Justin Fields is a better quarterback than Mac Jones and Trey Lance. But for some reason, this guy keeps dropping, and I don't quite understand why. I believe he is the second best quarterback in the draft. It's like a hair above Zach Wilson, but I still believe he's better than Zach Wilson.
You think he's better than Zach Wilson?
Yes, I think he's better than Zach Wilson.
Wow.
Yes, I
agree with that 100%.
I really do believe
Zach Wilson. I think is one of the most overrated prospects in the last couple of years.
See, I look at
my first hot take of any.
See, I look at the college that Justin Fields goes to, and now I want to believe that he's going to be this great player. Everybody compares him to Deshaun Watson. However, the issue is he goes to Ohio State. How many quarterbacks have come out of Ohio State to actually be good?
On the flip side of that, who did Zach Wilson beat?
Exactly.
Zach Wilson beat nobody all year.
And when he went up against the undefeated Coastal Carolina, he lost. So it's like it's not SEC worthy talent like Mac Jones or ACC talent like Clemson or the national playoffs like Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. So I'm like, who does his competition isn't the same as like every other quarterbacks except like Trey Lance.
Well, I don't think you can hold it against Zach Wilson for beating teams that he should be beating. If he's beating the teams he needs to beat, then there you go.
I understand that, but the teams he should be beating are not NFL caliber teams.
Okay,
They're just not NFL players.
He's still beating.
Like,
wouldn't it be more of a problem if he wasn't beating them?
Well, the problem is, I think Zach Wilson's overrated considering he's going to the Jets.
Oh, it's not him. It's the Jets.
It's the Jets now. Okay.
Combined with him, like if he went, let's be real, whoever goes to San Fran will succeed right off the rip. They're the better team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's possible.
So they'll be good off the rip. But I'll bring up Baker real quick. The reason I love Baker so much is because of what he did to the Browns. How many quarterbacks went there and just failed to turn it around? Baker did that. I don't think he gets enough respect for that. I just don't. And you could say maybe he's not as good as people say, like Josh Allen, right?
But surprised you've gone this long in this episode without mentioning Baker Mayfield.
So, like, Zach Wilson could be good to say he went to, like, a New England, you know what I mean, where they have pieces and smart guys around him. But Zach Wilson's not a good enough individual to turn a team around.
See, that's a fair argument, and I certainly agree with that. But I mean, you can't really hold it against Zach Wilson for the team that he's going to. I mean, very few players can just go to a team and just change a culture, especially when they're rookies coming out of the draft. Baker Mayfield. It took like 3 years for Baker Mayfield to get to where he is now. Where is he right now? 21 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. I mean, that's solid, but is that like turning the franchise around? I mean, look at the roster too. It's not like he was coming into a bad situation.
Why couldn't Johnny Manziel do it? Why
Johnny Manziel? The roster sucked then. The roster sucked then.
Sucked when he got there. Baker.
It was pretty good when he got here.
Off-field issues for Johnny Manziel.
So like San Fran, you know what I think is very overrated? Kyle Shanahan.
You think Shanahan's overrated?
Probably one of the most overrated coaches in the league.
So you think San Francisco is a great situation?
35. Is that a good record? 29-35. He has a negative coaching career. Negative.
So you said that San Francisco is a great situation to be in, but Kyle Shanahan's overrated and he's not a great coach.
You want a negative coach? I think we've all expected Kyle Shanahan to be good. He coached Matt Ryan to a Mickey Mouse MVP. Aaron Rodgers was robbed that year. He was robbed that year. Go look at Aaron Rodgers' numbers. And then it was also the year Julio was unstoppable.
Yeah.
Okay, but it was still a great year, and it was with Matt Ryan. Like it's Matt Ryan
gets too much credit for that though.
He did the same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh wait, time out. If you say that
Jimmy Garoppolo, he got absolutely embarrassed in the Super Bowl.
Oh, wait.
Right. We're getting way off topic, by the way.
Oh wait, can I ask this question?
Yes.
Cam, if you believe that Matt Ryan's MVP was a Mickey Mouse MVP, wouldn't that give more credit to Kyle Shanahan in this scheme that makes Matt Ryan look like an MVP caliber quarterback?
No, because it's Mickey Mouse because Kyle Shanahan did nothing to get Matt Ryan there.
Okay.
But look at where Matt Ryan is now in those Falcons teams. Ever since he's left, they haven't been the same. They made the playoffs once, and then they haven't been good ever since. And same with Matt Ryan. He's been more of just a fantasy football guy. Like that's the only relevance he has to the fans.
Could be a good coach.
Who?
Josh McDaniels.
Do I think he could be a good coach? I think if he gets another opportunity, he could be. I fail to see how this is relevant to the conversation, but
he succeeded when Belichick was around and when he had other people to do things for him.
So who was around when Shanahan was in Atlanta? Dan Quinn.
He did what he needed to do.
We are waiting.
How's Dan Quinn doing now?
He's fired.
Yeah.
He got hired by Dallas.
How's Dallas doing?
The Niners taking Matt Jones would be the biggest FU to any scout ever. Every scout is saying, don't take this dude. But yet Kyle Shanahan, because they announced today, it was like the GM said something and it was like, Yeah, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're taking what the coaches say very heavily into a consideration. So essentially, he said, you know what I mean? Kyle Shanahan made this pick. Don't blame me. So now Shanahan thinks he knows better than any scout who says Mac Jones is not even a first-round quarterback is where I'm right now. Not even a first-round quarterback. And you're going to reach for him at what, sixth they have? Fourth? That's the biggest FU to the scouting team I've ever seen. I think it's hilarious, but I think it's a bad decision.
For those of you who are wondering about the noise in the background, the lacrosse team lives on they live on our floor, and they probably have a grand total combined of about maybe say 2 brain cells, and they don't know what the hell is going on at 11:30 at night. You know, maybe it's finals night, study for something for once in your damn life. But yeah, as you can see, we're very patient with these lacrosse players. But yeah, I don't know. I think Mac Jones has the I think they're too caught up. I can agree with you to a level, Cam, that they're relying too much on this. They're thinking too much on the scheme with Mac Jones when they should really just be looking at the upside. And I think between Mac Jones and Trey Lance clearly has the upside. Now he may not be successful. He may not be successful right away, but he could be one of those players who's a project. And by say a year or two from now, he could be somebody who could actually be a great starting NFL quarterback in this league. You know, just look at Josh Allen. His first it took him a couple of years to get to the level he's at, but now he's an MVP candidate and he's playing well. So, you know, there's the situation's good in San Francisco. So it's the place is right for him to grow. And in a couple of years, we could see the 49ers having their franchise guy. Now, Mac Jones, I think he could be good. I think he could be, say, Kirk Cousins level for me, like a solid quarterback. Jesus, these guys just don't quiet
I got
down.
a question for you. I don't mean to cut you off. I got a question.
Okay.
You said in a couple of years, right? Meaning they're not going to be great for a couple of years. If Kyle Shanahan's record is 29 and 35 now, right? If he has 2 more losing seasons, do they keep Kyle Shanahan?
I think you have to put that into context. Last year, a great deal of that was last year, this past year. So it was this past year. It was injuries. The team was hampered by injuries. They lost George Kittle. They lost they lost Nick Bosa. They lost their quarterback, and both of their wide receivers were in and out of the lineup all year. In Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. So they were really injury riddled that year. And the year before that, they didn't have much of a roster to work with to begin with. And on top of that, who's supposed to be their franchise guy, Jimmy Garoppolo, he tears his ACL, and they wound up winning 2 games that year. So the year where they really felt they were in contention during the 2019 season when they went to the Super Bowl, I think that's the best year where you look at it and you say, okay, when everything is in order, when all the ducks are in a row, this guy can actually coach fairly well, and he has a good system that works, and it works under Jimmy Garoppolo of all players. Now, it's not like we're taking a Aaron Rodgers and they're going 13-3 and losing a Super Bowl. This is Jimmy Garoppolo, who is a decent quarterback. All right, so this is a guy who, I mean, I think he's been able to make do with what he's had for the most part, and it's been an unfortunate situation for part of it.
All right, so who was the number 2? I just read a theory, right? Who was the number 2 prospect pick when they traded up for the 3rd pick?
Who's the number 2 prospect?
When they did it, when Sanford made the trade, there's a theory out there that they thought the Jets would just take Justin Fields.
So you
so that
think
they could
you
get
think
Zach
they want
Wilson.
Zach Wilson?
No, I think it was Ian Rappaport may have reported it. Someone reported that there was a theory that they thought the Jets leaked something that they were sold with Justin Fields. So when San Fran made the trade, they thought they could get Zach Wilson.
Well, they only made the trade a few weeks ago, and they've been pretty fixed on taking Zach Wilson for a couple months now. It's not like I feel like it was going to be Justin Fields for a little while, but the tide really turned into they're going to take Zach Wilson. So it's really just shifted in that direction drastically, to be honest, which is really crazy. I didn't see anything wrong with Zach Wilson, with Justin Fields. I mean, but I can understand why they like Zach Wilson. I mean, that guy over at Utah, they call him the Mormon Patrick Mahomes. And if you watch him, yeah, he lives up to it. It really is crazy the abilities that he has.
It seems like every year there's quarterbacks that are hyped up, and every year we all fall for it as fans. And then every decade there's one good quarterback that comes out of it, maybe two. I think Trevor Lawrence will be okay. And I think whoever goes to San Fran will be bad. I don't think Zach Wilson will be good. I like Trey Lance, but I think it depends on where he lands. And I don't think Mac Jones will last, too long in this league with the style he plays. I think we're looking too deep into this, and like 90% of quarterbacks take and fail in the first round. They just don't work out. But every time there's hype leading up to those people.
Well, that's the same thing with every quarterback. Well, if you look at the statistics for the rounds after the first round, it's actually even worse. So the best chances of getting a legitimate star NFL quarterback, that typically comes in the first round. You can just go back to even you can go to Peyton Manning, you can go to Aaron Rodgers.
I'd like to look up how many starting quarterbacks right now of all 32 were taken in the first round. I don't think it's more than 50%. I don't.
If you want to look it up,
I don't know what that is. You know what I mean? Have your little assistant behind you do that.
I'll just simply ask you, how many quarterbacks do you know who have been drafted in the third round or later have wound up becoming star caliber NFL quarterbacks? I know of Russell Wilson. I know of Tom Brady. Besides that, who else?
Unfortunately, Dak Prescott.
I was thinking of including him, but do we? I think he's a very good NFL quarterback.
He got the contract.
I mean, if we include Dak Prescott, I think we include Kirk Cousins at that point, right?
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
Kirk Cousins has been successful. You know what I mean? You don't want you want to say he's not, but like he got that big contract. I mean, for a while he was top. I don't know, what would you say, 15 quarterback? That's good enough. You know what I mean? But like, I think at least two of these quarterbacks will be worse than Kirk Cousins.
I think Kirk Cousins is a very solid NFL quarterback. I don't think he's a franchise guy.
I'm gonna look it up. Last 10 years, QBs taken round one. All right.
Let's see it. I think. Well, you can go back in recent years. In 2019, the 2020 NFL draft, there was Justin Herbert.
2010, the quarterbacks taking first round. Sam Bradford and Tim Tebow. Both of them extremely hyped coming out. How'd they do? Not that great. 2011, Cam Newton and Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert.
Okay, Cam Newton panned out.
He did. So
2010 wasn't a quarterback draft, was it?
What are we run for like 7 right now? 2012 was really good. Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin III, Ryan Tannehill, and Brandon Weeden. So you're 2 for 4.
2 for 4. So you're including Ryan Tannehill?
Griffin. No, Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill's a success.
2013 was not a good draft year for quarterback.
2013, you had E.J. Manuel. 2014, you had Blake Bortles, Johnny Manziel, and Teddy Bridgewater. 0 for 3.
Oh, yeah.
2015.
Teddy Bridgewater's a special case.
All right. Jameis Winston in 2015 and Marcus Mariota. 0 for 2.
Nah.
2016, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz. I'll give him 2 for 2 on that.
That's a
2017, Mitch Trubisky, Mahomes, and Watson. 2 for 3.
2 for 3. That's a loud 2 for 3 as well.
Yeah, that is very good. 2018, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and Lamar Jackson.
That's a damn good quarterback draft.
That's a damn good one. 2019, Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins.
1.5 out of 3.
Yeah, I don't like Daniel Jones. I'd give it to Kyler Murray, though. He's legit. And then 2020, Joe Burrow, Tua, Herbert, and Jordan Love.
I think Daniel Jones is going to be a special case. He's going to be somebody where we don't know. This is going to be a telling year for Daniel Jones. If he sucks this year, then I'll give you that. You know who is what I do like is this quarterback draft so far from this past year. Justin Herbert is a real stud. And honestly,
I don't think so.
Justin Herbert,
I think he landed on the best team.
The best team.
Ooh. Out of the quarterbacks drafted.
The Los Angeles Chargers are the best team.
Quarterbacks drafted. I mean, Tua's not great. You know what I mean? And Joe Burrow, I think Joe Burrow's not that great either. But Justin Herbert, I mean, he landed on
a bit of an unpopular opinion when you think.
Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow? Yeah. He was
the dude
pretty
takes
good.
too many sacks on purpose. He rolls out of pocket.
You think he gets sacked on purpose?
That line sucks.
The offensive line sucks.
He had like the 10th longest time to throw in the pocket. What do you mean?
He's a rookie. He's a kid.
But top 10.
That offensive line.
Top 10 time to throw.
How do you know? Like, what do you mean had the 10? He also has legs, so he probably bought a lot of time. It's not just 10th top longest. He was just standing there in the pocket. You have to put that into context. He had no offensive line. What are you looking up now?
2020 QB time to throw.
He's probably extending time with his legs, like Russell Wilson does, like Lamar does, like all these.
Time to throw means in the pocket, not outside the pocket.
Where's the statistics where he had the 10th longest?
Because I'm really not sure he had 10.
He did not have 10.
He is Mayfield, Allen, Wentz.
He's like bottom half.
Mm-mm.
Look, Joe Burrow, he showed plenty of promise.
Yeah.
To at least be able to say this kid has potential.
I'm gonna list you quarterbacks with less time to throw.
Okay.
Kyler Murray.
Yep.
Okay. He had a bad year too.
No,
Jared Goff.
That's
Baker Mayfield.
Same with him. Okay.
Lamar Jackson.
Baker Mayfield also didn't throw that much.
Matthew Stafford.
And also,
where did Burrow fall in with those quarterbacks?
I think Joe Burrow is a very good quarterback who could wind up being a good quarterback.
I think he's okay. I think the Bengals are the Bengals. They don't like to spend money. They'll never surround him with talent. So, like, Andy Dalton is really good. You forget about that. And it was just another talent wasted. And I feel that's how Joe Burrow is going to end up, too.
I mean, I love me some Red Rifle Andy Dalton, but do you really think it was Andy Dalton's talent, or do you think he was just surrounded with a good team in his early playing years?
I mean, if you consider his team a good team,
I think AJ Green in his prime and Mohamed Sanu are back in his prime years are actually pretty good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Remember Tyler Eifert before injuries ruined his career? He was actually pretty good.
What about
Marvin Jones?
He never had no line.
And his defense was vicious. Like literally, they got dirty at times, but that defense was vicious. That helped. They helped them.
Domato Pecco, Fontes Perfect, Adam Pac-Man Jones, Reggie Nelson.
They used to have a little rivalry with the Steelers. Remember that when they used to just bash each other. That's how Antonio Brown turned into a little. Probably got CTE, a little bit going there.
But we can't diagnose it yet.
But Cam, you said you had some thoughts on the draft that you wanted to get to. So do you have those in front of you? Do you care to share with us?
Well, no, it was just the big. I'm not sold on Zach Wilson. I think there'll be 2 good quarterbacks that come out of this. The rest will be duds. And that's just statistics tell you that. We just read off all those quarterbacks. It's under 50% the hits. So the more quarterbacks you take, you get a couple of the pop, but you also get more that don't.
All right. But the only way to get a good quarterback is to actually try to draft them.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
I'm tired of every year, these fans and the media goes crazy for all these quarterbacks that over 50% of them don't pan out. It's actually look at what the scouts are saying, and the scouts are right most of the time. And that is their job.
You could look at what the scouts were saying about Tom Brady. If you look at his scout report, it didn't work. It didn't look like it was going to work out. They thought he was going to be a career backup at best. If he could even make a major,
people stand out. There's outliers and everything.
And it turns out
that's just who he is.
Well, exactly. So things never always pan out, and in fact, most of the time it doesn't. But it's important to roll the dice, especially if you're an NFL franchise who's looking for your franchise quarterback. If you actually end up tapping on one of these quarterbacks, you could actually become a great franchise for years to come. Just look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They traded up to number 10 to grab Patrick Mahomes, and that turned out to work. And it turned out that worked out. And Patrick Mahomes wasn't a player who was exactly hyped up the way he is now. People thought that he was a reach. They thought there were some. I don't
know who thought.
People saying
everyone thought the Bears were going to take him. What are you talking about? He was a reach.
Nobody thought the Bears were going to take him. Who thought the Bears were going to take him? There's people coming. There's teams coming out now who are saying, "Oh well, we were going to take him at number 11." Now that he's turned into a future Hall of Fame player, possibly. People are like, "Oh, we were going to take him at number 11." Do you really believe that? Do you really think that they're just? Why didn't they say that before? Why are they saying that now that he's become the face of the league, literally taken the league by storm? I just don't believe it for a second.
The Bears were in close talks with Mahomes during the draft process. As we know, they didn't meet with Watson. It was Trubisky and Mahomes were the quarterbacks they were looking at. And many thought it was Mahomes that they were going to take.
No, they were fixed on Trubisky for that whole time. And it turns out Deshaun Watson's another guy, but I don't know. You just have to roll the dice. You have to roll the dice. We're debating between these 3 quarterbacks here. There is Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, and Mitch Trubisky. All 2 of the 3 are superstars in this league now. Now the other guy, he's just below average garbage.
I think Trubisky will be Zach Wilson.
You think Trubisky's going to be Zach Wilson?
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying he'll be but we're going to look back on this draft, and that's who he's going to be. He's going to be. They reached for him, and he wasn't as good as everyone thought he was.
Okay.
You can have your opinion. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next part, and so we've talked a little bit about Baker Mayfield, how you're a diehard Baker Mayfield fan, and I'm sure you like the Browns a little bit as well. I'm actually surprised you haven't gone out of your way to mention him at all, quite as much as I thought. But give us your take on Baker and the Browns, just the state of the team going into the 2021 season?
I think they're in a great position. I think Baker, I think he's a dark horse MVP candidate simply because he has to be. I mean, you see Josh Allen put up numbers. You see Lamar Jackson won an MVP. So now you have the best team around you when you look at these two other teams. And it's time for you to put up numbers that people expect you to put up. So I think he will. His numbers last year were pretty good post Odell. He had 2 games early January. They were complete rain and windstorms where helicopters weren't flying. I mean, so you can't hold those 2 games against him because that's the element he plays in. You know what I mean? So like the numbers were really good after Odell, and I think if he continues to put up those numbers, they'll extend him past his 5th-year option.
So that's interesting that you talk about the offense elevating to that level because it really hasn't changed very much this offseason. Most of the change has been from the defense. So do you think the team the chemistry on the team will get better and the play will just flow a lot better, or do you think what do you think it's going to be from that?
I definitely think the safety they got from the Rams. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Troy Johnson.
Yes, I think that was a huge signing. He was the captain of the Rams defense with Aaron Donald and all of them and Jalen Ramsey, and he still ran that defense. So I think that'll be a massive signing. Clowney's great. I mean, do I think he'll put up fantastic numbers? No, I think he's a little overhyped. But now it's someone else that O-lines have to worry about combined with Myles Garrett. So I think that frees up Myles Garrett a little bit more. So I think their defense needed help, and they addressed it really well. That's why I think Baker needs to perform this year. If he doesn't perform this year, then there's going to be some big question marks.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you think Baker's going to be an MVP candidate this year?
I do, because I think he has to be.
You think he has to be?
I think he has to be. Baker has to perform at that level.
So not just any statistics, any signings to back it up. Just he has to be. He has to be an MVP.
He has to be on that level.
All right. Say he performs another. Like, this was a good season. You know what I mean, I by no means am I saying this season was great for him. It was a good season. And then they go into that 5th year. You know what I mean? And then it's like, will they be talking contract? Do you give Baker $40 million? I mean, that's the number. That's where everything's at right now. Baker also doesn't strike me as the dude to play hardball come contract time. I think if there's one quarterback that's going to take a pay cut, it'll be Baker. I think Lamar's going to demand the bank, and I think Lamar will bankrupt that team.
You think? Okay. So that's a great transition into our next part of this show. And I kid you guys not, this is an actual debate that went on, that has been ongoing. I wish I was kidding. That this has been going on between these two, between Justin, our co-host, and Cam. It's whatever. So Cam thinks Baker Mayfield is better than Lamar Jackson. Justin disagrees. Justin thinks Cam is crazy and that Lamar Jackson is absolutely better than.
Can you put a poll? Can you put a poll in
Baker Mayfield? I'll put that in to follow up when I publish this.
Do some research for this, right? I need you to do some research for this. Look up the passing numbers, put them side by side, and see what people pick.
Well, okay. Why don't we just put in the poll and have people do the research for themselves? I mean, a lot of people know.
Because people won't do that. Put the numbers side by side, see who they pick.
They should.
I feel like you're going to ask me to put in numbers that just support Baker Mayfield's.
No, just basic completion percentage.
Although I have to say, I'm not sure what numbers would actually support that.
If he's talking passing yards, sure, but if you're talking wins,
I want yards, I want touchdowns, I want picks, I want completion percentage.
Lamar's better at you in picks. He was the lead in touchdowns at one point in time. He was a unanimous MVP, and He's just flat out overall.
And he threw into triple coverage and the biggest throw of his season this year. Triple coverage for a pick six.
And Baker still lost this, man. Funny that. You can't even say he lost to the defense. No, he lost to Lamar Jackson.
I think Lamar Jackson's throw to seal that game or that pick six is probably top 5 worst throw of the season. And it came in a time where you cannot afford to do that. That's not a week 5 game. That's take your time, make the read, and you threw a horrible ball.
He just threw one bad pass. That's the way I saw it.
It's when you make that bad pass. You can't make it there. You can't. Great quarterbacks don't.
And you think Baker's a great quarterback?
Yeah.
I think you just threw out a stat about his touchdown and interception thing, which was 21-8, if I was correct. Lamar was 26-9.
So more touchdowns and just one more just one more interception.
2-0 against the regular season. Didn't get to face him in the postseason. So undefeated in the regular season this year. Beat him both times. The first time pretty badly. The second time more convincingly. And he did so with, say it with me now, his arm. Not just his running, his arm in the final 2 minutes of the game.
You mean when he faked an injury to leave the game so his defense could get him back in the game, then he came back and won?
What are you talking about? That defense was failing when Lamar left.
What defense did what defense was being played while Lamar was out? I just didn't see anything special that happened.
Why did he leave?
Because he had cramps. I don't understand he had cramps.
NFL player, you want your NFL starting quarterback leaving a game where they kind of want to win because he has cramps? I don't want my guy doing that.
He's done that once in his NFL career.
All I'm saying is when you gotta go, you gotta go. And so sometimes
what does that have to do with this, Adam? What does that?
I saw him walking down back, running down and back from that locker room, and I just gotta say, I know that Waddle. You know, he definitely.
My boy said that's cramps. That's all you need to know.
When you have Taco Bell, things don't always go so smoothly. Or say Chipotle. You know. Anything Hispanic, Latin food, you know, it's some crazy stuff. Just saying, when you gotta go, you gotta go.
He was not pulling a Paul Pierce.
He must have felt 10 pounds lighter. Must have felt 10.
So
he was running a lot better after that play.
He threw a touchdown.
I also think the hit that took him out in the playoffs was not. It wasn't soft, but it was not a concussion protocol hit. There were multiple
concussion. I don't know what you want.
There were just multiple more hits that game that were worse than that. And you're saying he got taken out to save Irishman.
Okay, so
he needed to be out of that stadium.
So you didn't see Lamar's head snap back, or are we just avoiding that?
Are we gonna go through the season and find all those hits where it wasn't deemed concussion protocol, but just happened to be after he throws the worst throw of his career? That happens.
First off, the reason he got a concussion is because our center, for some reason, can't handle a snap to send it to our quarterback. He throws it over Lamar's head. Lamar Jackson throws the ball away, and then he takes a hit, and then his head snaps back, and then he gets the concussion, and he's rolled out for the rest of the game. That was the blow that killed us for the rest of the season, not the interception. Because if we actually look at that game, they couldn't score after the touchdown. They legit could not score.
I just think that there are so many harder hits that aren't the concussion protocol, and then that gets put into concussion protocol. I think that's a soft hit.
It also depends on how the hit happens. You know, it's just the placement of it, how his head, like if your head snaps back, it's not just taking a direct hit, like a direct hit from the head to the head. You're also, you know, if your head snaps back, your brain isn't just, when your brain is in your skull, there's still some room for it to move. And the issue with this is when your skull either snaps back or takes a direct stop, like so suddenly during a hit, then your skull, the brain's going to hit the wall, the side of your skull. It's going to hit the inside of your skull, and it can cause issues like that.
But like, there was no fencing pose from him. He didn't look. You know what I mean? He looked like a man who lost a game. You know what I mean? He did not look completely out of it. And to be taken out of the game where your team needs you, availability is the best ability. And he just doesn't have it.
Even when my guy's not available, he's still better than your guy. Your guy can't even beat my guy. He's not even on the level.
I've failed to see when Baker Mayfield couldn't beat the Chiefs with their backup quarterback.
I mean, that wasn't Baker Mayfield didn't even get the ball back. That was their piss poor defense we talked about.
I think that defense was
on a roll that second half. He was playing really well that second half.
Are we talking about Cleveland's defense or Kansas City's defense?
Mayfield. Like the second half of that game, Baker Mayfield woke up and he was playing fantastic. He just didn't get the ball back in the fourth when he needed it.
So Baker Mayfield's defense or Cleveland's defense? Baker Mayfield isn't a team.
I think he was talking about Cleveland's defense.
So Cleveland's defense is bad.
Well, you said
Cleveland's defense.
You said Baker couldn't beat Kansas City with a backup quarterback. Well, Baker Mayfield didn't face the backup quarterback. He faced their starting defense. So, like, that's not really a...
Right, but weren't you talking about Kansas City's defense being pretty bad too?
He was talking about Cleveland's.
Baker Mayfield was on a roll that second half. He just didn't get the ball back. Baker Mayfield got the ball back. They win that game.
Psych.
He didn't.
I mean, only one of these players has had an MVP caliber season.
Mm-hmm.
So you think Baker Mayfield is due?
When no one had tape on him. Good job.
7 games worth of tape is still 7 games worth of tape. It's not nothing. It's pretty substantial. And then the next season he wins MVP. Come on, that's pretty substantial amount of tape for you to make an adjustment to it.
And it seems like he made an adjustment to the league. His throwing arm got better. He was able to throw down the field. I mean, it seemed in the beginning of his career, he just seemed like that. It felt like the Ravens had to go with a high school type offense. He couldn't throw the ball when it mattered most.
Still can't.
He can. I thought Cleveland learned that lesson up in Cleveland when we beat y'all.
He became a very capable passer to the point where they actually opposing teams had to respect the pass game, and it allowed Lamar Jackson to sort of be able to run all over teams all season long. But however, once you get to the playoffs, it gets to a point where a team is going to be able to stop the run and force you to throw. And I just don't think Lamar Jackson's passing abilities are good enough to overcome that, where you have to come back from a large deficit, or if you're forced to throw so many times. Feels like when Lamar Jackson wins games when he's allowed to rush more, or if he's able to get out to big leads. But if you can't get the run game going, mm-hmm. and if you fall behind, then teams that are centered around a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, they're screwed at that point. It's the same. It was the same with Michael Vick. There's a reason why he didn't survive in the NFL.
He got arrested.
Same reason Lamar won't.
Yeah, he got arrested, but how about in the years that he was here?
He played well, and then after he came back,
Jackson's Michael Vick 2.0.
I think Lamar Jackson's his own guy. Lamar Jackson is
5 times better than Michael Vick. Michael Vick said that his own self.
He's broken Michael Vick's passing records, and he's had a back-to-back 1,000 yards rushing seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time,
tell me a main rushing quarterback who has won anything big. Oh wait, they don't.
Name a time Baker Mayfield has won anything big.
Mm-hmm.
Has MVP been win a Super Bowl?
He hasn't yet.
Yeah, neither of them have.
Neither of them have. So it's going to take time. But
But again, Lamar doesn't have the weapons Baker does, and yet Lamar is still considered a better player than Baker.
Baker Mayfield has gone through 4 coaches in 3 seasons.
And he's had Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. during all of those years.
And Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Four different offensive schemes. He had wait till year 2. Wait till year 2 with a confident head coach.
You guys do have a confident head coach.
Now we do. Yes, now we do.
So hopefully you guys do a little something. But y'all still not beating us, respectfully.
All right. We'll have to find out about just how this winds up turning out. It feels like we can debate about this all night, but it's really going to come down to how things plan out. Because we could talk about what's going to happen. The Baker Mayfield MVP campaign, it just has to happen. There's Lamar Jackson, who hasn't won a Super Bowl. We're going to have to wait for it. But we're just going to have to find out. All right, guys, do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up for tonight?
Just wait till Zach Wilson is a big bust.
Okay, Justin?
Nah, Lamar's better than Baker. That's all I got.
All right, now.
As a running back, maybe.
It's both a running back and a quarterback. He's far better than him in every single way.
All right. That'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify and Google Play. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Over and out.